Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today I am talking to all you iPhone or iPad users out there because a new iPhone spyware is letting law enforcement know your passwords or passcodes, and here's what's going on. And this is coming from NBC News, and you really need to hear this. Now, a new software called Hide UI, which was created by a company called Grayshift, which is basically a company that makes iPhone cracking devices for law enforcement, can track a suspect's passcode when it's entered into a phone, and this is according to two people in law enforcement who asked not to be named but are very familiar with this situation, again, according to NBC News. Now, this spyware has been available for about a year for law enforcement, but this is really the first time that details of its existence have been reported, in part because of non-disclosure agreements that police departments sign when they buy a device from Grayshift known as Gray Key, and we will get to that soon. Now, because of this lack of public scrutiny, as well as the feature that basically can get your password, defense attorneys, forensic experts, and civil liberty advocates are very concerned that Hide UI can be used without giving owners any due process or alert, including getting things like a warrant, which is something that law enforcement typically needs here in the United States. Now, according to Jennifer Granick, who is an attorney for the ACLU, and I quote, "This is messed up. Public oversight of policing is a fundamental value of democracy. With these kinds of novel tools, we see a real desire for secrecy on the part of government." And that should be concerning, I think, for a lot of people in that sense. So there you go. Now, if you recall, Apple famously refused to unlock an iPhone for the FBI in the case of the San Bernardino terrorist shooting because they argued that doing so would make the phones less secure. I actually wrote an article for that for an old publisher called Apple and Goliath, and it was probably one of my most trafficked, if you will, articles of that time frame. I want to say it was around 2016 or so. Now, in the absence of help from Apple, law enforcement officials have relied on companies like Grayshift and Celebrite, who is, I think, a little more known than Grayshift. Basically, they're using these two companies to find vulnerabilities in Apple's software and hardware and then build tools that can bypass the security features of your iPhone or your iPad. Now, the Gray Key device, which I talked about earlier, is the first known device from Grayshift, and it's interesting, but it's different from Hide UI. Now, the Gray Key device is a small box with basically two iPhone lightning cables sticking out of it, and this was launched in March of 2018. What this allowed law enforcement officials to do is that they can plug any recent model of an iPhone into this box through one of the cables and install an agent or a piece of software onto the device. The agent can then attempt to crack the passcode by cloning the phone, offering an estimate of how much time it may take. So if you have a 4-digit PIN, it could take a couple of minutes to crack. Or if you have a 6-digit PIN, it'll take less than a day to crack that with this Gray Key device. All the more reason to have a very aggressive password. And so for 8 and 10-digit passcodes or greater, that obviously could take weeks or years. And so it is under this circumstance that Hide UI provides a way to get access to the device more quickly. Now, in order for this feature to work, law enforcement must install the software and then set up basically a scenario to put a seized device back into the hands of the suspect. This is according to people familiar with the way this works. Now, here's the thing. So, and as an example, and this is the example that NBC News gave, a law enforcement official could tell a suspect that they can call their lawyer or take some phone numbers off the device. So once the suspect punches in their passcode and has done this, even if they lock their phones again, Hide UI will have then stored a passcode into a text file that can be extracted once law enforcement then plugs that phone back into a Gray Key device, and they can just simply retrieve the passcode and unlock the phone. Law enforcement can then use this passcode, obviously, to get whatever they want off of the phone. That is a very serious issue, but it really underscores something that I think the NBC article really didn't mention, is that if Gray Key has this capability, as well as Celebrite and some others, there is no reason why, let's say, a state-sponsored actor couldn't possibly reverse engineer this and then basically use this for intelligence gathering purposes. Let's say temporarily hitting or cloning an iPhone from a US senator or a congressperson, or God forbid, the president of the United States. This is something that we really need to talk about, not to mention the fact that this has been flying under the radar. Most people on the planet have no idea what Celebrite does, and quite frankly, I've been impressed with their work in the ability to bypass the security of a basic iPhone. And so when we are talking about this, and when Apple is pushing out their marketing saying, oh, we are so secure and all of this, while they may have a good stance on privacy and security, a la the San Bernardino shooting incident, there are now companies that can find these vulnerabilities and bypass the iPhone. And so when you are looking at iPhone versus Android security, keep this in mind, because quite frankly, if they can do this and not tell you, with a suspect without getting a warrant in the scenario that NBC News offered, that is a very serious issue. And I think that's something that we need to consider. So if you have an iPhone, heads up, if somebody has pirated this technology or reverse engineered it or created their own, your iPhone could be very easily cracked simply by punching in your passcode. And I think that's something that should concern everybody. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Obviously, the way this is working is it can get all of this, but then you have to attach it to something. I could possibly see an intelligence agency or a very sophisticated cyber criminal doing something along these lines. But in terms of just breaking it over the Wi-Fi, it's probably not that. But again, something to consider as we are continuously, let's say, receding in this age of privacy, as we are finding out these things that law enforcement is doing, and they are keeping this secret from the public. So it's something to consider. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.